Dealing with an addiction can bring up all kinds of emotions. The so-called good emotions, love, sympathy, empathy, concern, and the so-called bad emotions, anger, shame, disgust. Parents are taught that we are to love our children unequivocally at all times. So often the intensity of these emotions can be very disconcerting. Parents don't know what to do with it. One of the emotions that is considered a bad emotion, and many parents are going to struggle with, either feeling themselves or being accused of, is hatred. So let's talk a little bit about that today, shall we? As much as we like to think that we have a pretty good understanding of a lot of different things, we really don't. Take emotions, for example. There's a thing called EQ. EQ is the counterpart of IQ. IQ is supposed to measure our intelligence potential. EQ is supposed to measure our emotional intelligence or sensitivity. But do you know that most people don't even have a good definition or good grasp on what emotions are? Take, for example, the emotions of being happy or being sad. Most people think of these as specific points. You're happy or you're sad, but they're actually not. Think of them better as a spectrum, a line. Happy might include mildly amused or ecstatically happy or anywhere in between. Sad might include mild irritation, kind of gloom, that sort of stuff, to severe depression. So if you think about it like that, that will really help. And you can do the same thing with other emotions. Anger. Anger can be a slight irritation to beside yourself with being enraged. Ashamed can be slightly embarrassed to mortified. All of our emotions are actually on a sliding scale. They're on a range. The other thing I want you to think about is that emotions are value neutral. You remember in the beginning I said the so-called good emotions and the so-called bad emotions? Emotions don't have a value of good or bad. The value comes in how they're expressed. For example, everyone likes to think anger is a bad emotion. Yet we know Jesus Christ was so angered by the money changers, he fashioned a whip and drove them out of the temple because they were cheating the people and making it harder for people to come and worship. So he angrily drove them out of the temple. Does that mean he sinned? No, of course not. He's Jesus Christ. So how can that be? Well, that can be because anger is value neutral. There's times when it's completely appropriate. There's times when it's good. It doesn't have a value to it in itself. Does that make sense? You've probably heard the expression, there's a thin line between love and hate. Well, that's kind of true, But the idea with that is that love is one end and hate is the other, and there's some magic line when you cross. Hate is the opposite of love, right? That's what the saying is trying to convey. That's a lie. The opposite of love is not hate. Hate and love are still emotions. In fact, hate is very close to love in a lot of ways. You're still worried about the individual. You're still concerned about them. They still occupy a huge part of your brain, your concentration, your efforts, your emotions, your energies are still focused on them. So hate is actually closer to love than most people think. What's the opposite of love is indifference. Love, you're focused on them, you're worried about them, you're concerned about them. Hate, you're still focused on them, you're still worried about them, you're still concerned about them, you're still spending energy on them. Indifference, I don't care. If I'm indifferent, I don't care. I have no more emotion, I'm not spending any energy, I'm not thinking about them, they are out of my mind. So now that we know what hatred is not, it is not the opposite of love, we need to define what it actually is. And when we talk about this, I would like you to think about a bowl of spaghetti noodles. Your emotions, each emotion is a noodle. Are you not sad that this has happened to the child you love? Of course you are. Are you not afraid of the future, of the present, of tonight, of tomorrow? Yes, most definitely. Are you not mortified? Yes. Are you not ashamed? Yes. Are you not anxious? Yes. Of course you are. At the same time, are you not feeling like a victim? You didn't ask for this addiction to come into your family. You weren't the one out doing drugs. So yes, you victimize. At the same time, you're also the victim of crime, lying. You've been stolen from. You're lying. They lied to you. You're the victim of all of that. And you've been betrayed. So what you end up with is a bowl full of intertwined noodles. If each one was pulled out one by one, you could deal with it. You would know how to deal with sadness, okay? But being twined together, how do you handle that? Well, what we need a cover for it. So we pour spaghetti sauce on it. In this case, that spaghetti sauce is known as hatred, or to hate. That's why it's much closer to love than it is to indifference. Does that make sense? So what I want you to think about is this. It is not wrong to hate. Hate is an emotion. Therefore, it's value neutral. There are times when hatred is completely acceptable. Okay? There's times when Scripture talks about how God hated this or God hated that. Hatred is value neutral. It is okay to hate. In our case, it is okay to hate the drugs, the addiction, the behavior, the lifestyle, the damage it's doing to your child, the damage it's doing to your family, the damage it's doing to you. It's okay to hate those things. The problem comes in, though, in this. Your child is not the addiction. Your child is the addicted. In other words, you don't actually hate your child. You hate the lifestyle and everything that goes along with it, but you love your child. Do you want me to give you some absolute, concrete, 100% proof that you love your child and that you're doing whatever you can? Stop thinking in your head and take a look at your actions. Where are you right now, this instant? I'm talking to you, so therefore you're in front of a video watching some old fart talk about how to deal with the addiction. Why? Because you love your child. If you did not love your child, you would be indifferent. You couldn't care less. Because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. The fact that you care enough to be looking at videos, enough to be searching for answers, enough to be reading books if you've done that, enough to be investing your time and effort and mental concentration into helping and working with your addicted child is concrete, 100% guaranteed evidence that you love your child. Kind of an interesting thought, isn't it? This way, bud. This way. Come.